start with the Word program window. So you have our tabs up here, and then you have a ribbon for each tab. So when you click on a tab, you'll see its ribbon appear, and each ribbon has a set of groups. So this is the table group, the illustrations group. Let's go back to the home tab, which is probably the most useful one. In the font group, for instance, then we have icons that will allow us to do things like change the font, change the font's attributes, like bold, italic, all kinds of things like that. And then you have the launcher. Remember, the launcher is what takes you to the power user things. You know, open up a dialog box where you then enter in other parameters to adjust the text or whatever. The other thing I wanted to mention was the tooltips. As you hover over an icon, you'll get a little tip that tells you what that icon does. Okay? You can also minimize or maximize that window so you can see what's going on. What else you might want to see here is your ruler and your scroll bars. The scroll bars are there, and they're dependent on the size of the screen you're using. Sometimes you'll see the whole document, sometimes you won't. But you know, you can actually scroll it around. We have a bar down here that's called the status bar. The status bar has a zoom slider, which again will allow you to change the size. So if you want to see the entire document or really do some surgery on part of it, you can kind of zoom in and zoom out. You also, this 100% is a button, so if you click on that, you can set, you know, a screen size that you're comfortable with, where you can see multiple pages or just one page, depending on, again, your, you know, the device that you're using. Good? So the other thing about the status bar that I like to point out is if you right-click on it, you get to see the status of a lot of different things. The ones that are checked are there already. So I can see I'm on page 1, I can see the word count, but I can't see, for instance, the section number. So if you want to see that, just click on it, and it appears. And obviously, you know, there's plenty of real estate down here on the status bar. You can put, you know, depending on how you like to work, if you're working with columns, you may need it, you may not, right? But the idea is the status bar is your friend. It kind of helps you know where you are and, you know, what the settings are in the application. There are other views here, so you can see, you know, different views, like the print layout shows you what it prints like. The web layout will show you what it will look like if you view it in a browser. So you'll see what it's going to look like, say, in Chrome or whatever. And then the ruler. Well, there is no ruler. Maybe you know how to show the ruler or how to view the ruler. So if you look at the top here, there is a view menu, right? A view tab. So I go to that view tab, and then in the show group, I have ruler. And there's the ruler. Okay, so the ruler's in view now. You have both a vertical ruler and a horizontal ruler. The horizontal ruler has the indents there, margin guides and indents, and also you'll see things like tabs. There are no tabs there now, but it's very convenient to have your ruler in view all the time. Okay, so you can see right away that this gets a red squiggly line, which means it's not in the dictionary. And what am I going to do about it? I'm going to right-click again, and I'll see some suggestions, or I'll just know it's a common name, and I'll say ignore it. Again, add it to the dictionary. That'll work on your computer. It won't work on these. You know what I mean? Because it's a lab computer. So if you say, like, add your name to the dictionary, next time you log on, it's still going to mark it as spelled wrong. Here's a typical grammatical error. I'll just type the word "and" twice. Shows up as a spelling error. But typically, it'll show up in green, right? And it's a grammatical error. I like to actually check those all at once when I'm done typing the document instead of doing them one by one. So if you go to the Review tab, you have a master spelling and grammar check there, and you can just run through the whole document. It'll find all the things it doesn't like, okay? And you can address it over here in this proofing cane. What is the difference between save and save as? So save, you can't use save the first time. You have to use save as the first time because it wants to know the name, the location, and the format. Those are the three things that you can kind of play around with. When you have saved it and you then overwrite by, you know, adding to the document and clicking save, it overwrites it with the same name in the same location with the same formatting. So, you know, whatever. But you may want to save multiple versions. I may want resume 1 and resume 2, or resume radio and resume TV, right? So then I can do a save as, and a save as gives me the parameters then to change the location. See, I can browse to different locations here. I can even find our transport. If I go to this PC, right? Here we are, T drive. Look familiar? Dropbox, 161. What else can you do? You can change the format of the document. It doesn't have to be a standard Word document. It could be an older version compatible. It could be a portable document format so someone can read it without Word. It could be a web page. All kinds of other goodies there that will make it more compatible when you send it out to people. And then the other thing was the name, obviously, right? So you're going to change the name right here, and it allows you to have multiple versions. Sometimes I'll just change the name with the date. I'll say something like, memo, and then put, 8/31. And if I update it tomorrow, I'll put 9/1, something like that. Good? So save as is really your friend. You can use it all the time. You don't have to use save. Sometimes I just use it to make sure. Am I saving it in the right place? Just double check with save as. Selecting text. So any editing you have to do, you generally have to select the text first. And I'm going to cancel that save as. Go back to the document. And I can select text in lots of ways, right? So let's say I want to change a word or something here. So let's say I want to change this career to job. I can just double click on that word, okay? And then I can overtype job. Or I can click and drag. And I'm sure you guys know about that, right? Click and drag. I can drag large segments. I can also drag segments that are not contiguous. You know how to do that? Drag that paragraph, hold down the control key, and drag another paragraph. Maybe I want to, format those differently for some reason. Maybe I want to say they're quotes, and I'm going to use the indent here and make them both indented a ½ inch on each side so they look like quotes. I can also select line by line, which is really weird because line by line isn't sentence by sentence. But if you double click in the margin, you get the entire paragraph. How do I know this is a paragraph? Well, I know it when I look at the formatting marks. Let me show you that. So if you go to Home and then turn on this Show Hide, you'll get what are called the formatting marks, or the invisibles, as I call them. These are spaces, okay, so tabs, and these are the paragraph returns. Okay? So if that's not on, I don't know that those are there. And I'm wondering, why is that paragraph, orphaned away from its mother paragraph or whatever? And then you turn this on, and you see what's going on. When you want to do indents and things like that, you don't want to indent with a tab stop. Okay, a lot of people will do that. They'll indent like that. The best way to do an indent is if you look at this indent marker, the first part of it, the top part of it, is called the first line indent. And when I move that, I can just indent by 1/8 of an inch, which looks much better than a ½ inch. And that'll stay on so that when I go to a new paragraph now, see, I'm already indented. And I'll type, and now this will go back to 0. And then I'll make another new paragraph, and that'll already be indented. Okay, so it's like set it and forget it. You set it once in the beginning, and you're good to go. So the left indent has the first line indent attached to it, and also you can do a hanging indent. It's a little more strange, but the right indent does it. What you can do with the Format Painter is, let's say this was a resume. And again, like each one of these headings, I did something to them. Maybe they were job headings, right? And I made them centered, and I made them larger, and I made them red, and I made them italics. I hate underlining. I'll tell you later why. Maybe you'll figure it out. But I'll make it underline anyway, right? So now with all that added to it, I say to myself, well, now I got this job. What did I do? What size was it? What shade of red was it? I don't have to remember all those things. I can just go here, click on this, right? And then go to the painter, and then I can just paint those attributes to other parts of the document. I don't know why it didn't do centered, but it should. Okay, so that's the Format Painter. It's here in the clipboard group. A hyperlink is a link to another area in the document. Maybe I have a long document, right? It's 100 pages long, but I have a table of contents in the beginning, and I say, part 1, part 2, part 3. Someone could say, I already read part 1, I'm going to jump right to part 2, or part 3. And they can click on that hyperlink, and it'll jump to that part of the document. Okay, so now if I right-click on it, or probably there's more than one way to do things in Word and Windows, I'm going to go to Insert. I think it is, right? Link, in the Links group. I can go to Link here, and then I can link it to an email address, maybe on my resume. I want to make a link, so this way people can click on it and send me an email right away. Set up an interview. I can create a new document. I can link somewhere in this document. Okay, so later on in this document, or I can link to a, let's do this one, just an outside web page, see if it works. Type it correctly, obviously. fitnyc.edu and say OK. And then you'll see it looks like a link now. And then if I click on it, let's see if it works here. I'm going to control click it to follow that link. It should launch the browser and take me to the FIT website. Okay, so that works. So those are convenient, especially, like on your resume, you might have a sample of your work. You want people to, kind of look at or whatever. It's a great way to kind of take them out of the original document. Or you want to show them an Excel file when you're talking about your new budget. Something like that will work nicely. So maybe I'm in insert, right? I've been doing a lot of hyperlink work, but I want to do a quick down and dirty formatting thing. So when I highlight this, you notice that the mini toolbar appears here. So that mini toolbar will give me, some basic mini things without having to go back here. Okay? There's some down and dirty. And I think you can customize it a little more. So maybe you want to see other things that you use that other people don't use. You can kind of call up that mini toolbar with that. There's also a quick access kind of toolbar here that again gives you some down and dirty, I want to, quickly print it or email it or do something, shortcutty kind of printing. Well, obviously printing, you want to go to backstage view when you want to print. First of all, you want to proof your documents, right? Don't print it before you run your grammar and spell check. You don't want to print one that you're going to have to put in the trash anyway, right? So take your time, proofread it. I don't even depend on, I like to read it, so to make sure that, the grammar check may miss something or the spell check could miss something. You can read it or you can tell it to read out loud. Something like that will work. So now if I want to print it, I go to File and then Print. And you'll see, a dialog box that will come up with a couple of interesting things. Be sustainable. Don't print all the pages. You can print just a certain part of it. You can collate. You can do different paper sizes if you have different paper trays in your printer. You can also pick from various printers. So depending on what printer is in this room, we can print to those printers. The document properties are, remember like in Cengage, the file has your name on it. So you can see those things if you go backstage here and then go to Inspect Document. Here's the properties. Okay, and you'll see things like if there's hidden data in there, metadata. You'll see, like it took me this time to edit it, when I created it, who created it, things like that. There might be hidden data in there too. So you can see those things here, compatibility checks and things like that. You can also protect the document, make it read-only, so other people can't modify it without your permission, kind of lock it down. So all kinds of goodies there, and that's all under the backstage view in File. The clipboard is like, let's say for instance you have something like you want to repeat this somewhere. So you can do this in different ways. I can right click on it and I can choose cut, copy, or paste, right? So that would be the pop-up menu. Yeah, Control C is the keyboard shortcut, right? So you'll see that. It doesn't show it here, but it might be somewhere else in there. You'll see the keyboard shortcut to actually copy it. Or you can use the clipboard here. The clipboard group there, it shows you the keyboard shortcut here, right? So Control C, if I want to copy it, I can pull that guy up. And what's the difference? Obviously, cut removes it and puts it on the clipboard, and then I can put it somewhere else by putting my insertion point there, and then using paste. This time I'm going to use Control V, which is the shortcut for paste. And I also get a very interesting paste options that'll allow me to say, well, it was bold where it came from, but I don't want it to be bold. I want it to match the destination formatting, so those kind of things you can, make sure it's copacetic with the rest of your formatting. If I pull up the clipboard group here, you can see I've got that JCL talent there is there, and I can also copy something else, and then that'll go there, okay? You can copy things like letterheads, pictures, videos, other things that you want to repeat or use often in the document, long strings of text like Fashion Institute of Technology, whatever. You don't want to keep typing it. You can just put it on the clipboard. Did that. You can also drag it. So if you just want to drag it, you can click on it, hold the mouse down, and drag it to a new spot in the document, and that will work also pretty well. Fonts, obviously fonts are here. You get a look at what the font looks like because the font name is impressed in that font. So you get an idea. Now, should I do my resume in this font? Probably not, right? So you guys passed. So the idea is that every font has its own feeling to it, maybe its own branding or image or all kinds of things. So, you want to choose the right font. If you're saying something important, you probably want to choose an important looking font. If you're doing a poem or a wedding invitation, you can do something lighter, right? So, you want to make sure that your font is, again, in sync with your message, your audience, your agenda, and your brand. Spacing is here, okay? You have your paragraph spacing and line spacing, so you can adjust that right here, and then spacing before and after paragraphs you can do too. So when you do those returns, instead of doing 2 returns, just set it for a bigger return, so you don't have to do it twice. Just makes it easier. So if I want to do a bulleted list or a numbered list, I can highlight the information first, and then go to the paragraph group, Home tab, and I have bullets, or I have numbers. And obviously numbers are more hierarchical. Bullets may be all equally important, right? Whereas if I say something like, when you come to your class, first log on, then get out your book. That might be something. So I can theme this up a little bit. If I go to the Design tab, there are a whole bunch of kind of preset themes that are there where, I don't know, depending on how the document is set up, it'll have different fonts for one thing, right? Different kind of font pairs you can do. And also you can modify these themes so that, you can get different kind of colors that may, again, match your brand. You can change the font groups, okay? So you can have different font pairs that work together well. Maybe use, one for the headline, one for the body copy. You can even set up your own. Not on the Mac, though. Sorry, Mac users. Currently, you can only choose from the preset ones, but here we can customize and set up our own fonts here that we can really customize our documents. Every time we send it out, it kind of has a signature look. Oh, look, I got another document from Juliana, trying to get me to buy something, right? If I want to insert something like a picture in the document, I can grab it here. Actually, I'm going to go to online. It's probably going to work better. I don't know if there are any pictures on this PC, so let's go to online pictures. It'll probably load Bing because it's Microsoft, and I like apples. So I hate clip art though, right? So let's go look for a real apple here and load it in. And we'll talk more about this later on, but you can do things like resize the image, don't distort it. Looks like an apple from outer space, right? So resize it proportionally by holding down the Shift key. It'll resize proportionally, and then you can see there's all kinds of interesting kind of eye candy attributes that you can add here, as far as like framing it, where it sits on the page, how the text wraps around it. Corrections like brightness and contrast can all be rendered. Even Photoshop-like effects can be impressed upon your image. Of course, you want to make this agree with your overall message and audience and outcomes and things like that. If you're selling apples and you make them look like they're from outer space, people probably won't buy it, right? So, again, think about really what your goal of the communication is, and then do all the formatting things to enforce, enhance, and edify that goal.